the backbone of America.
So welcome back to the Backbone of America podcast, where we interview entrepreneurs, get to know a little bit about their business. Today, we're here with Chris Groves, CEO of Groves Capital. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's a motivational speaker and the founder of the 110% movement. Chris, thanks for being here today. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your business and maybe some metrics you use to gauge, the growth?
Groves Capital, start off with that. So Groves Capital has been family owned and operated now for close to a decade. Me and my wife, Elena, built that company from the ground up. For us, it was really focusing on a platform that no one else has, giving our loan officers access to pretty much every solution for their clientele. And then really focusing on support of those loan officers to run a successful business. For us, we never want to be employees, and that's kind of the way we tailored the company, is to allow people to run a business without the headache of the back end and really solve any problem that may come across, right? Every market has a different change of environment, what products are good, what products are bad. So for us, we're always constantly sourcing and giving to our team what's going to be the best to make money for the family and help their clientele.
Now, today you operate as a financial broker. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we hold all licenses. We're a certified financial lender, real estate broker, mortgage broker, and then I do large infrastructure projects as well with another company called Global Impact Assets, where I'm the CIO and partner.
And what about, give us an idea about how much loan production you do annually?
Well, the last couple of years have been different. Right? I think over the last 10 years of business, I think we've done over 7.2 billion. Cumulative over the last 9.5 years in the business. Obviously the last couple of years have been pivot, so we're probably on track for 1.5 B a year right now is kind of where the market is till things start picking up.
Are the individuals that work for you, are they on a commission basis? Are they on I imagine they're on their commission, but how do you structure it to keep them motivated?
Yeah, so like you said, this is not a micromanaged platform. That's not what I want to create. I want to give business owners a platform to operate their business on and have every solution at hand. So we run it very much as that model. It's 1099. You can't push people to a certain level. This platform is not, hey, what are you bringing this month? What's the metrics is? That's never been our belief at Groves is take care of your clients, give them a 5-star experience, and here's the right platform to facilitate it. So a lot of people that are with us have been in the industry for a long time, and they went to a lot of different shops and businesses. And they want to do business with good people that do what they say they're going to do and are constantly reevaluating the platform to bring in new products and new solutions.
So what do you spend your day doing? I mean, do you manage, is that what you're mostly doing, management now?
So yeah, I run as a CEO. So mainly, like, I'm always focused on growth for Groves. I mean, one thing that even today, I think I've had 3 recruit calls today, and it's 11 a.m. PST. So for me, I'm always growing. I'm always building my team because, this market, everyone sees a shiny object and they're looking to the next thing. So you're constantly dealing with turnover is part of the industry. So that's heavily always a focus of my day. Also with my new company that I've been focused on that the last 12 months very heavily, which is large infrastructure projects. So we are the lender for like large projects like solar, hydrogen, oil and gas companies. It could be large infrastructure like hospitals, transportation. So we do that domestically and internationally. And that's another opportunity we brought to Groves for our loan officers as well, because a lot of companies don't have access to and don't have an opportunity. So now we're able to fund, now large infrastructure on top of everything else we do. But the minimum's of $100 million, and we do an average deal size between 400 and 600 million at this point.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's a lot more than just mortgages. I understood that was a big chunk of your business.
Yeah, well, you diversified, as I said earlier. If you're not diversified right now, you're hurting a lot or you're out of business. So you got to diversify.
Yeah, agreed. So what's the biggest challenge in the business? I mean, you mentioned there's got to be movement. You're constantly looking for the next opportunity, because if you're static, you may be out of business. But
yeah.
What's the challenge for you?
I think the challenges I think we're all dealing with is the market, changes at a constant, right? Yeah, obviously after the election took place, we all thought, hey, things will adjust, will get better, but they're moving so many cogs in the wheel at this point, in a large, government wheel, that don't exactly knows which way things are going to go. So having an unstable market creates uncertainty. So we see the most people in this market are investors. So they're people that buy, flip, are doing DSCR loans, investors. That's who are doing the most transactions, because they're not as worried about the minutia of the everyday client that's buying their first investment property. So investors are the ones that are making the most plays. So that's what we cater a lot of our products and solutions to, as investors, because they're spending the money right now. So that's who we're going to cater to.
Yeah, that's definitely the bread and butter. I mean, construction's been very strong post pandemic. We've seen a couple industries that, struggling, but I don't think construction has been one of them. I was actually very surprised that there's still a lot of building for commercial office space. I would have thought it would have been at a total standstill, but considering that there's a lot of class B, C, and D product that's kind of stale, but there's still a lot of construction in commercial office. Do you get a lot of requests for that?
Yeah, we do. Retail is the harder asset to sell right now. So, the lenders won't touch it unless the leverage is good or they have a good stabilized tenant ratio. Like usually they want to see 90% or 100% occupancy to lend on those projects. So yeah, retail is very tough one right now. I do it. It's got to be a solid deal for the investors to play right now. But watching what's going on in the marketplace, most people are still working from home. People are still cutting costs right now. So I don't, if I was going to invest, I wouldn't invest in retail right now, to be very honest. I'd be multifamily. It's still my favorite asset class because people need places to live regardless of what's going on in the market. If they're not going to buy, they're going to rent from the landlord. So it's the best product in this market in my opinion.
Understood. Yeah, that makes sense. What about oil and gas? I mean, that's got to be an industry that banks don't want to touch either. I mean, judging by everything, that they're commenting that's going to be electrical, everything in the future. Output of electricity is going to double and triple. With products like Chat GTP that are going to be consuming a lot more. How do you get these oil and gas projects done? I mean, nobody really wants the reputation of finance them. There's a lot of people out there that are looking down on anyone that does that. What's been your experience?
I disagree. Obviously, with the new president in office, he's all about oil and gas. So the market's it's heated up like no other right now. Actually, there's a deficit of oil and gas. I get these deals across my desk; they go within hours. So there's a huge appetite. Still got to fuel these things. And obviously, him being in office for the next 4 years is going to bring a lot more of those projects and make it more sustainable for lenders to jump in. What we do is we sell our paper to the pension funds directly. So and when it comes out of our underwriting, it becomes 100% insured. So for them, they're getting grade A paper, AAA bonds, and insured. So they don't care what it is as long as they're getting their rate of return. That's all that matters. Oil and gas is not going to go away. Like I said, in the next 4 years, we know it's going to actually increase. But I don't disagree with you as far as, all the technology is needed. Are there other resources that should be allocated? Yeah, heck yeah. I think hydrogen is one of my favorite allocations of energy in the sector right now. I'm working with a lot of companies that are literally taking trash from dumps and turning that into sustainable energy for towns and cities and colleges and things like that. So I'm working on a lot of cool projects that are there to help, not only, yes, people save money, but also save the environment and bring jobs in place. But to answer your question, oil and gas it's not going anywhere. If anything, right now, everyone's looking for it even more so right now with the current climate.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Trump has been a blow to anybody that's in the environmental or pushing environmental. Has anything changed since he's come into office?
Like that, I think more investors I feel a little bit more secure. Obviously, it's been good and bad. Like right away, everyone's like, all right, let's go. And then last month, everyone's like, let's go, let's see what happens with the trade stuff going on right now and the tariffs. I think long-term vision, it makes sense, but I think things will get a little worse before they'll get better in general. It's just like in a company when you're doing cuts and you're cutting costs, you have to kind of really see where it lands before you start your growth pattern again. And I kind of see that's what they're doing, whether I agree with it or not, that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, the stock market definitely got excited about him coming into office. It took a big, maybe 20% up, and the last couple of weeks it's been cooling off. But they say it's a healthy. You can't be growing at that kind of pace. But there's no doubt that the only thing that is happening, there's a lot of movement. So if you position yourself correctly, you should do fine. Now, where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years? I mean, do you think you'd be in the same place, or I mean, you're operating now as a financial broker. Do you ever have any desire to become a private lender and have your own portfolio?
So with my new company, Global Impact Assets, we are the lender. My goal is to IPO that company in the next 3 years. So that's my main focus right now. We're building an AI technology to underwrite projects within, 30-day span, where it usually takes the government 18, 24 months to underwrite these projects. It takes me 6 to 9 months. So that's where I see myself right now. The infrastructure, it's just a big loans, right? At the end of the day, you're creating jobs, you're creating solutions, you're creating the opportunity. It's not just domestically, it's internationally as well. And this is what every country needs. So for me, it takes me the same amount of time to work on $1 million loan as a $1 billion loan at the end of the day. So I want to focus on the biggest plays, biggest opportunities that make the biggest impact.
And how do you screen all these deals that come with these significant sizes? I mean, I imagine there's a lot of people that like to do these large deals, but they're really not connected to the right people. So they're just wasting your time. How do you screen them?
So we have a pre-underwriting team that works with us in our company. We go through everything. We have a very diligent checklist. I mean, probably like close to 300 answered questionnaire and where they're at with the projects. Because yeah, everyone's like, oh, I have this huge project. I want hundreds of millions of dollars, and cool, you send over a deck and you have a big ask, but what have you really done, right? Our job is to make sure the project's actually ready for underwriting. It's got some meat on the bones and it's viable and it's gonna be cash flow positive. So yes, I get decks across my desk all day long. Doesn't do much for me until I get on the call and see what's viable. How do they pull permits? Do they own land? Do they own technology? Do they have off takes? Like those are the things we're looking for, especially companies that have off takes, like they're already ready to rock and roll. And there's a lot of good viable companies right now in this climate that are.
What are the top 3 questions that you ask? Because everybody wants to get on the phone with you. I hate getting on the phone because then they start telling you a whole story. I just want to get the meats and potatoes of it. What are your top 3 questions when somebody calls and says, I want to tell you about a deal?
Yeah, the biggest thing I'm going to ask, obviously, location. Because for us, we got to make sure it's going to be insurable, right? That's the biggest thing is we do insurance wrappers and all these plays like Lloyd's of London. So number one is where it is, because I can't do every country based on risk for my insurance wraps. Second is obviously the deal size, because I have a minimum of 100 million, so I want to make sure that they fit our parameters. And then what have they done, right? Do they own land? Do they own equipment? Do they have off takes? Like those are the top 3 questions I start with. And then once I make sure it's insurable, then we do a discovery call and then dig deeper. But we have a whole analysis team to make sure before we get it, in front of the full underwriters that it's already ready to rock and roll.
You started your first business at 16. Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur, or is that something that, how did you get into business?
I watched my parents struggle their whole lives. My dad's blue collar worker, and mom, very similar. And, hearing about debt and credit card debt was, my upbringing. I didn't come from money. My parents didn't, I paid for my own college, my cars, my wedding, like everything was me and my wife. So for me, I've never taken a paycheck, so I don't know what a salary is. For me, you actually close deals, you put action behind it, you make money. If you don't, you're gone. Right. So that's my whole life is just based on me producing. If I don't produce, I don't survive. So I'm going to survive.
All right. So you've been driven from a young age. That's good. Now, who do you look up to today?
If I think of someone when I'm tired and exhausted, I probably think of someone like Dwayne Johnson, just because the guy's a beast, and another big bald guy that's been crushing it and just is nonstop. When he's waking up at 3 a.m. and I have my moments. We all need our motivation from time to time, but I think about him if I'm exhausted. I'm like, he's older than me, and look at all the things he's doing. So that's something I put in my mind to keep pushing on as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt he's well known for his work ethic,
Yeah.
like much like many other greats. Mike Tyson would say, if my opponents are running 5 miles a day, I'm running 10. So it was never about the talent that they had, but more the work ethic that they were willing to put in. So yeah, I agree. Now, you were named as the Gross Capital was named the world's greatest by Bloomberg. What's that about?
Yeah, we were, I think we were put up for an award. So just based on customer service, based on reviews, based on volume, based on growth, company culture. They did a whole TV show around our company. So we've actually got a lot of accolades over the last 10 years in business. They're very prideful of, and I think that's what separates us from the pack from most lending companies. We are very public, and for me, reputation is everything. When people look at a lender, trust and reliability speaks the loudest, especially in the bigger deals you get. That's the stuff that people care about the most is, who you are and what have you done in the business. So when I built this company, I focused on those kind of things, right? I wanted to be new age. I wanted to be sexy. I wanted to make something fun and exciting, but trust and reliability is the backbone of this business.
I heard you earlier say that you were into the solar industry. Are you referring to solar panels on roofs, or are you talking about big infrastructure projects?
We do both. Obviously, solar's been a big play for the last couple of years. We brought solar platforms with inside of groves for the average, residential homeowners, and then I do large infrastructure plays in the solar space, or even lend to solar manufacturers here, domestically and some internationally as well.
I got it. Tell me about maybe some hard challenges you've had, or maybe the hardest time that you experienced at Groves Capital. I imagine there's some individuals that are listening in that would like to start something like what you've done, become very successful. But give me some of the hard times.
Well, the last 3 years have been hard times for a lot of companies in general. I don't know the total specifics, but what I can say is every market changes. Don't ever get comfortable, right? Because once things get comfortable, you think everything's an easy breeze, and the market changes and you're not ready for it, you go under very quickly. So for me, I've always been in the mindset to not ever stop growing, not ever stop prospecting for our own business, for recruits, for opportunities. And that's what keeps you ahead of the pack. I've seen a lot of people, I've heard the story over and over, especially in the mortgage business, how many people blew it up at one point and they lost it all. Why? Well, because things change, they didn't adapt, or they got lazy and they got complacent, but it's good and they forget about it, and things come down really quickly. So the business world, especially the market, things change quick. If you're not planning for that, you're not saving, you're not allocating, it can change your whole world very, very quickly. So I've heard those stories on a daily basis over the last 10 years in this business, the horror stories, and it keeps me honest and keeps me focused on not having those same issues that other business owners have had. And always listen to people. That's one thing with business owners. A lot of people or younger generations, they won't want to listen to other people's failures. They only want to hear the successes. For me, I want to hear all the things that failed for other opportunities or other businesses, because I learn from those things, right? And then that's going to help me be more successful. Yeah, you want to listen to things that work as well, but you learn a lot more from the things that don't work than the things that work, honestly.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we've seen a lot of conventional knowledge not really work out these last couple of years. A lot of individuals that have been, focused on traditional investments like bonds, like commercial real estate, things that's supposed to, was supposed to be very steady and during a recession, and they've gotten absolutely crushed.
Yeah.
So it's good to be diversified. It's good to look at history. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Let's talk about you and your wife working together. You guys are known as a powerful, dynamic couple. What's it like? What are the benefits of working with your wife?
Well, the benefits of working with a wife, we have the same goal, right? At the end of the day, and that's, for me as a couple, it's always one thing I preach, in a relationship, regardless if you run your business with your wife or not, you need to have the same goals. For us, we do have the same goals. We have the same focus point on what lifestyle should look like, what our family life should look like, and what business should look like. So if you got two hustlers focused on the same goal, you're going to maximize your results. So for me, it's a blessing. She has the background in ops that I don't want to do, and I have the upfront presence that she doesn't want to do, right? So for me, most businesses are front of the house and ops, right? And a lot of business owners are really good at sales and they think they can own a business, right? And they fail really quickly because they don't understand, if you don't have good ops, good back end, good compliance, legalities for anything you do in the business, you're going to fail out really quickly. Just because you sell doesn't mean you should open a business. So, I always tell people you need to have both. So I'm very blessed to have a wife that is very diligent on the back end, and I'm very good about growing it. And, do we have our moments where we disagree or things go right? Of course, we're human, but we communicate, and we found our pattern is to stay in our sectors, right? So I stay out of her way, she stays out of mine, the majority of the time, unless it needs to be both of our attention on an issue or something that comes up. But we try not to be emotional about things. That's one thing in business, especially with your wife. Like, a business hits or an issue happens, like not having a emotional response is something that we focus on, and we're pretty good at this point. Instead of being emotional or cry, well, it'll take you a minute, and then we focus on a solution. Because at the end of the day, that's all business is. It's problems and solutions.
Yeah, I like that. I was actually recently hearing a podcast where it was an entrepreneur that said, I don't like making decisions when everyone's in agreement, because you're not hearing both sides of the story. So
Yep.
that's the good thing about having someone disagree with you. You could always hear that kind of their point of view and then make a decision once you've heard all the facts. Let's move forward now to the 110% movement. This has nothing to do with commercial business, personal growth and motivation. What's that about?
Like I said earlier, like I come from very humble beginnings. I never had a mentor. I never had someone say, "Hey, do this, do this." I learned through trial and error. I had a lot of businesses where I was lucky enough to be in front of high net worth individuals in my space. So I learned. I was a sponge. I learned a lot from them. So for me, this is me giving back to young entrepreneurs. Something that I wish I had at the end of the day. So I do speaking events at the NFL with different business entities. That really want to get inspired to push the limit on things. But for me, it's about mindset, 90%. That's what I teach people is how to have the right mindset every day, because that's the biggest thing that most people don't know how to control. They don't know how to control their emotions. They don't know how to control their mindset. And the thing in business is you don't do everything that's going to win. Right? You have a lot of sales, and it gets frustrating, and most people quit before they ever see a success. Like, how many stories have you heard that, hey, I did this 1,000 times and 1,001 it finally took off. But the issue with most people, they don't have that mindset, they don't have the discipline, they don't have the consistency, and then sometimes the belief to get to that point. And that's what separates the true, people that succeed and the people that will never get to that level, is the ones that can push through those barriers, and not get torn down from them, but also push forward and obviously, manifest what success is, right? So for me, when I do something, I'm going to put 110% effort into every day, but I also believe I'm going to accomplish that. I'm also going to put that in everywhere I go, every place I go, everyone knows what I'm doing, and those things will start to happen. And that's what people don't understand. If you're negative about what you're doing, you're not confident about it, and you doubt yourself on a daily basis, so you're gonna be successful. The answer is no, right? And now this is something you learn. This is something I teach. But you got to work on it. Even something I work on every day is constantly like, I'm not a perfect person in mindset. I have my moments, I have my emotions. But I try to check myself and really focus on that, because that's what's really changed my life, is how I view, and also understand that different perspectives, like you said earlier, you have to have different perspectives. Like, you're just hearing good things all day long, that doesn't help you grow as a person. So for me, whether it's political, religious, business wise, I love hearing other people's opinions on things or perspectives on things, because it may change the way I think about things, but at least make me understand people better in front of me. Because at the end of the day, we all deal with people, and you have to understand how people operate and how their mind works to be successful in business, and that's what you need to do.
Yeah. Now, what's the most consistent problem that you see with people that can't focus, can't run a business well? I mean, we know that most people that are good entrepreneurs get it from an early age. So it's not something that's particularly taught to them. In fact, most billionaires today are self-made. A lot of people make a claim that money chases it, like they're just the kids of the wealthiest. But if you look at the world's billionaires today, most of them are self-made, and most of them started their businesses early on. So even learning something like this from someone else and being taught, do you really think it's innate, or do you think it could be perfected through courses and motivation?
I mean, I think part of it's innate. Like, if you come from money, are you going to have the same ambition as someone like me? Probably not. Like, I meet every once in a while, and I'd say it doesn't happen. Recently I met a very successful young entrepreneur that's family's very wealthy, and he moves like I do, which, we're obviously now we're trying to do business, but I told him I never meet people that come from money that have your ambition. So it was a standout for me. But yes, you can teach yourself to push yourself in certain ways, but you have to have goals, right? At the end of the day, like, what are you doing this for? Why are you pushing so hard? A lot of people, number one, if it's hard, they just bail out of it. If it's not instant gratification, they're out. But what's the thing you're pushing for? So for me, you gotta have matrices. Like, okay, I'm gonna push for this goal to achieve this, and then once I hit there, I'm gonna achieve this, and I'm gonna keep moving up that ladder. And it's probably never gonna stop. To be honest, there's never gonna be a level go, all right, I made it, I'm out, I win. Right? Like, what would I do with myself? It'd be bored. So human nature is to have something to accomplish. If you don't have a goal in mind, you're not going to get there. So every day you got to focus, whether it's a little goal or a big goal, but you got to be pushing towards something. So that's the first step, is to lock down that narrative. What do you really want to accomplish? Write it down on paper every day, push that energy towards that, and you have to put actions.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest qualification for a successful entrepreneur, that they're uncomfortable with where they are. Whenever they find a goal, they get there, but the one that really stands out are the one that once he gets there, he finds another goal, and he moves forward, and he never really gets to where he wants to arrive, and that's what makes him so successful. Anyways, let's talk about this final question here. You find yourself in the finance business today. If you were 16 again, what industry would you be in? I mean, there's a lot of things that have a lot of potential, like technology, AI. Would you still advise that young individuals, go into the finance business, or do you think they should go into other promising industries?
Well, I laughed about that question because I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing, and honestly loving what I'm doing at this point. So for me, I mean, there's two folds of business, right? You do, like, some people work, they want to do something they love, and other people want to do something that makes them much money, so they can do whatever they want that they love. So there's always that different track of mind. For me, if I was at 19 in this marketplace with AI coming, I would focus on opportunities either in AI or something that won't require it, to take away your job, because there's gonna be a lot of jobs that are gonna be taken with AI, especially admin stuff, marketing, technology. I mean, I use AI on a daily basis at this point. It's funny, even a lot of my younger loan officers don't even touch it at this point. Like, how do you not use it at this point? It makes you way more efficient. So for me, I think sales is still one of the best things out there. You're always gonna need salespeople. And I've always focused on, you're always make the most revenue from sales, right? And so for me, I'm going to sell the biggest freaking products in the world, and I'm going to make my money, right? So it's going to be infrastructure projects. It's going to be, large acquisitions and things like that. But you don't just get there. You have to work yourself up there. So I always think sales is the best market to be in, because there's no cap on the money you can make. And the people you can get across. But the goal is, once you get into sales, is to keep moving in that ladder and building a clientele that you can keep taking to the next sector, right? And that's what people need to focus on.
Understood. Chris, that's all the time that I have. I want to thank you for being here on the Backbone of America podcast. Hopefully I'll have you on in the future, but some good insights here for today. Thank you.
No, thanks for having me, my friend. Appreciate you.
Made in America.